Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. Yes, it's almost 11 p.m., but I did say I was going to get this review done today, on a Monday. So here we are. The reason why it's taking place today is because I took a nap earlier because I was exhausted after work. But we're going to get into it. The first race of the round of 12, and it was... pretty forgettable race, but we're going to get into all that. So let's do it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where tonight I'm going to be talking about and reviewing the 2021 South Point 400 from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the fall edition at Las Vegas. It's our 116th edition of The Fuel. Title of this episode: I played my 3DS during this race. Yes, I do have a 3DS XL, as a matter of fact. This is the Link Between Worlds Special Edition. And look how big this sucker is. Fits in the palm of my hand. It's pretty nifty. Especially when I go on break at work. I can play this damn thing whenever I want to, and it's a pretty cool little deal. That's pretty much what I was doing for the majority of Stage 3 in this race. This race overall was... It's definitely going to be... It's definitely a forgettable Las Vegas race. For a playoff race, it was pretty lackluster, to say the least. Now, is that necessarily a bad thing? No, not really. I mean, the 550 horsepower package sucks ass, but we already knew that. But, I mean, this race did have its moments in Stage 1 and Stage 2. It was just Stage 3 that was just boring as hell. I mean, it seemed like nobody could, keep up with each other. Passing was pretty much kept to a minimum. Pretty much, by the end of the race, third on back was like 11 seconds behind the leader. Not exactly... riveting stuff, like we saw at Bristol, which inevitably this race is going to be compared to, and, well, it just doesn't compare. Now, I say it's not necessarily a bad thing, because, I mean, you're not going to have stellar, 10 out of 10 races every single week. It's just unrealistic. I mean, occasionally you'll get some races that are just, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, this race didn't really have any dumb shit officiating or anything like that. I mean, yeah, you had some drivers and teams making mistakes, but, you see that every week, though. It's just that it's kind of amplified with it being the playoff and everything. So, there's that. But, we're going to get into things. But there is... some things I wanted to talk about. Of course, Denny Hamlin earned his second win of 2021. I kept saying in the reviews leading up to the playoff, I kept saying do not sleep on Denny Hamlin. Yes, Kyle Larson is the favorite, but there's a reason why Hamlin was leading the points for so many weeks. I mean, shit. And why is my chat not working? My chat doesn't seem to be working. That doesn't make any sense. I can't seem to chat for whatever reason. That's weird. Well, whatever. I mean, I usually don't chat anyway, so it's whatevs. But stream settings, analytics. Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But I kept saying in the reviews leading up to the playoff that you can't sleep on Denny Hamlin. I mean, even though he had one up until the Southern 500, I mean, he was finishing top 5 on a pretty regular basis, and quite frankly, he should have more wins than he has this season, based on his performance. So, is it really a surprise that he's started to notch some wins here in the playoff? No, it really isn't. It just took some time to put it all together. Put it all together in the Southern 500 and pretty much dominated the latter half of the South Point 400 yesterday. I mean, he led more than half the race. So, if that says anything. But there was one other headline that I wanted to talk about. It isn't anything NASCAR related, but it is related to a track that NASCAR is going to be going to in a few weeks' time. This was a pretty crazy deal. There was a propane tank explosion at Texas Motor Speedway the day of the South Point 400. Let me pull this up on Twitter because this is some crazy shit. You know, I was seeing this while I was watching the race, and it's just like, wow. I mean, this was absolutely nuts. So display capture. So here it is. Yeah, pretty insane. There were no Thankfully, there were no injuries reported following a propane tank explosion. It was actually on Saturday. That's right. So let's take a look at the story here. No injuries, minor damage reported from a propane tank explosion at Texas Motor Speedway. There was some minor damage to a building at Texas Motor Speedway following a propane tank explosion Saturday. There was a car show being held at the Speedway, and a TMS spokesman said it was caused by a vendor's propane tank exploding near a concession stand. No injuries were reported. Crews were able to quickly extinguish the flames. There was minor damage to a building. And that's honestly a good thing because, I mean, any kind of explosion, especially when you consider that it was a propane tank, I mean, it could have caused, you know, serious injuries to multiple people, or it could have killed multiple people if anybody was standing near it, from the shrapnel and all that other shit. So, the fact that there were no injuries from this is a pretty big miracle in and of itself, because, I mean, I wouldn't want to be standing near that. That's for damn sure. So, pretty crazy little deal from this weekend. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the race review itself. This race was 267 laps, so the stages broke down 80, 80, and then 107 for stage 3. There were 4 cars that had to go to the rear of the field for tech inspection failures pre-race. Those were Eric Almirola, Martin Truex Jr., and William Byron. J.J. Yaley also had to go to the rear, but his car actually failed tech 3 times. So in addition to going to the rear of the field, his car chief was ejected, and he had to do a drive-through penalty after the start of the race. So stage number 1, Kyle Larson started from the pole because he won the race, obviously, at Bristol. Blaney gets a push from Harvick and leads lap number 1. Kyle Busch up to 4th early on. Hamlin gets by Larson for 2nd as everyone fans out behind them. Bowman with a 3-wide move by Logano and DiBenedetto for 5th position. That was pretty cool. Kyle Busch gets by Larson for 3rd. Hamlin starts challenging Blaney for the lead and takes it on lap number 8 for our first pure lead change of the day. Byron and Truex, who had to start from the rear of the field, were steamrolling their way through the field early on. You had the top 3 of Hamlin, Blaney, and Kyle Busch fighting for the race lead. Like I said, stages 1 and 2 were actually pretty solid. It was just stage 3 that was boring as hell, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Larson gets by Kyle Busch for 3rd. Byron was already up to the top 10 by lap 19. Don't forget he had to start from the rear of the field. Kyle Busch back by Larson for 3rd and tries to catch Blaney for 2nd. And then we get our first caution on lap 26, which was the competition caution. Everyone comes in for service, and Kyle Busch wins the race off pit road. Bell locks up the tires at the entrance to pit road to avoid getting into someone, and Logano had to come back in to tighten lugs on his car, which was a pretty common thing throughout the field. There's actually someone that's going to be without a crew chief for next week at Talladega. We'll get to that when we get to it. But Kyle Busch leads on the restart. Hamlin gets the lead on the restart. Harvick gets by Matt DiBenedetto for 5th. Larson gets by Kyle Busch for 2nd. And then passes Hamlin for the lead among lap cars. This is deeper into the run. For our second pure lead change on lap 45. Kyle Busch gets by Hamlin for 2nd. And then Byron gets by Harvick for 5th. Blaney started reporting that his cool suit was starting to fail, which was not a good thing considering that it was pretty damn hot when the sun was out. It was in the mid-90s, so pretty brutal heat. And Kyle Larson wins stage number 1. It was a pretty meh first stage overall. Everyone comes in for service, and Hamlin wins the race off pit road, so we come to stage 2, which was also 80 laps. Hamlin leads the start of stage 2. We had 2 and 3 wide through the field. Larson makes the pass on Hamlin on the high side for the lead, which was pretty impressive. For our third pure lead change on lap 89, Byron takes Larson and Hamlin 3 wide for the lead and actually takes it, but we were denied a pure lead change because we had our second caution on lap 93 when Joey Gase hits the wall hard in turns 1 and 2 after losing the left rear wheel, not tire, the entire wheel in turns 1 and 2, and nearly went over. That's how hard he hit. And in fact, they had to transport him to the local hospital for further evaluation, and he was eventually released because that was a hell of an impact. But that's been the issue the past couple weeks. Loose lug nuts. And it seems like the 15 team didn't put the lug nuts tight on that wheel, and well, you see the results for yourself. Hopefully, when they go to the single lug next year, it'll alleviate a lot of these problems. At least that's the hope. And believe it or not, this was the final caution of the day. The rest of the race was pretty much clean and green, with the exception of the stage 2 stage break. That was pretty much it. Several drivers come in for service. Byron leads on the restart. Larson gets a push from Elliott to take the lead on the restart. They went 4 wide going into turn 1. What are you doing, Cat? Blaney moves up to try to challenge the Hendrick Armada with all 4 cars inside the top 6 at this point. But Chase Elliott manages to get the lead for our 4th career lead change on lap 102. Larson and Elliott battle side by side for the race lead for several laps, with Kyle Larson taking it back on lap 103. It was at this point that Hendrick was 1, 2, 3, 4 on lap 105. Byron slingshots by Elliott for 2nd. Blaney around the outside of Bowman for 4th. Bowman gets tight in turn 4 and loses 2 spots to Hamlin and Kyle Busch. Green flag pit stops begin on lap 134. Kyle Busch gets by Hamlin for 2nd. Hamlin back by Kyle Busch for 2nd. They were going back and forth. And in a strange move, Larson pits from the lead on lap 154. And I'm just thinking to myself, why didn't they pit him sooner if they were going to pit during the stage? Because this left them absolutely no time to try to get back to the lead lap, or at the very least try to get the lucky dog. So definitely a botched call by Cliff Daniels, which is highly unusual for someone like him, because this ended up trapping Larson a lap down, and he had a tough time getting back to the front of the field. He did eventually recover to finish 10th, but this was definitely a botched call by the 5 team. Is this really going to hurt the 5 team? No, not really. I mean, he still recovered to finish 10th, like I said, and he still has like a 58-point edge over the cut line. I mean, and he was fast in this race too. I mean, he led a lot of laps. I think he led like 90 some odd laps in this race. So, I mean, yeah, it was a botched call, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to really be that big of a deal, because he still has a pretty good gap to the cut line. So now we get to stage 3, 107 laps, and that's when this thing really started getting used, because this stage was garbage. Hamlin leads the start of stage 3. Truex gets a push from Kyle Busch to take the lead on the restart. Hamlin tries to come back on the inside and actually takes the lead on lap 168. And that is pretty much it. Hamlin pretty much leads the rest of the way, aside from the green flag pit stops. There was lots of 2 and 3 wide through the field at this point. Of course, it's the restart. Reddick gets by Truex for 2nd. Tyler Reddick was actually looking really good, and he actually looked like a threat to get his first win in this race, but couldn't quite pull it off. Elliott gets by Harvick for 4th as Harvick starts to fade a bit. Not really a whole lot of drama there, at least this time around. Reddick challenges Hamlin for the race lead, but is not able to get around him. Kyle Busch kicks off green flag stops on lap 211. Hamlin pits from the lead on lap 215. Keselowski is one of the guys who is playing the long game. William Byron has to make an emergency stop for a flat right rear tire. So that wasn't really a mistake on their part. It was just bad luck. You know, there were some people like, is Hendrick unraveling here in the playoff? No. Okay, they're not. They're still all in it. I mean, did they have a few setbacks? Yeah, but there's still 2 races to go in this round. So just relax for a second. Let's see what happens at Talladega, and then we'll make our assessment from there. But Austin Dillon was staying out the longest, hoping for a caution. But, I mean, other than, you know, the tire coming off of Joey Gase's car, I mean, these cars weren't wrecking. I mean, that was just, it had a long green flag look to it. So, staying out was not the way to go. And Dillon finally pits on lap 229. Hamlin cycles back with the lead with Elliott in second, 1.2 seconds back. Elliott would try to claw his way to Hamlin, but is unable to do it. Logano reporting that he may have had a loose wheel. Kyle Busch by Truex for 3rd. And it was at this point that 3rd place on back was 10 seconds or more behind. So Elliott still trying to catch Hamlin for the lead. He was 1.4 seconds back with 12 to go. Elliott actually started to catch him right near the end. He was actually right on his tail coming to the white flag. but just wasn't able to catch up to him. And Denny Hamlin wins the South Point 400 at Las Vegas. So yeah, pretty lackluster race, especially in that third stage. Stages 1 and 2 were okay, I suppose. But that third stage was just, ugh. Not very compelling television, to say the least. I mean, I don't know what it was like at the track, but on television it was just not good. Alright, so here's some if I can talk, here's some statistics for you. There were actually 21 overall lead changes in this race, pretty good. With 6 pure lead changes, only 2 caution flags. It's one of the reasons why I'm not going to really slam this race, because I mean, we did have a decent number of lead changes. We had a decent number of pure lead changes. Wait, maybe that's why. Is it private? No, it's public. Huh. I thought it was private for a second. But like I said, it's one of the reasons why I'm not going to totally slam this race. I mean, we did see some late changes, very few caution flags. There was really only one for incident. The rest of the race was clean and green, so it went by pretty quickly. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to completely slam this race like some people have. I mean, yeah, it was pretty lackluster, especially when you compare it to Bristol or, you know, the previous race at Vegas back in the spring. You know, but I mean, I'm not going to completely slam it. I mean, there wasn't any dumb shit officiating. It went by fairly quickly. There were very few cautions. There were some lead changes. It did have its moments. So I'm not going to completely tear this race apart. And as for green flag passes, there were 2,264 green flag passes, which is 9.2 per lap average. So pretty decent. Alright, so race results, your top 10 finishers. Denny Hamlin with the win. Chase Elliott comes home in second, still looking for his first oval win since he won at Phoenix last year to win the championship. Kyle Busch comes home in third at his home track. Martin Truex Jr. in fourth, after starting from the rear of the field, by the way. Ryan Blaney in fifth, Tyler Reddick sixth, Brad Keselowski seventh. Kurt Busch with a top 10 run. Kevin Harvick in ninth, and Kyle Larson recovers from his team's little strategic gaffe to finish in the 10th position. So, point standings, with 2 races remaining in the round of 12. Denny Hamlin has advanced to the round of 8, pretty much equaling what he did in the round of 16, winning the Southern 500 and advancing to the round of 12. Does the same thing here. Kyle Larson is plus 57 to the cut line, which is pretty good. He could potentially leave Talladega locked into the round of 8 based on points. Kyle Busch is third right now, plus 35. Truex in fourth, plus 31. They're pretty safe at the moment. Of course, that could all change. Ryan Blaney in fifth, plus 24. Chase Elliott, plus 22. And then you get the guys that are going to be on the hot seat a little bit. I would say sixth on up, they can feel kind of comfortable. I would say second through fourth, they can feel pretty good at the moment. But from seventh on down, they're going to be sweating ice water. Because you got Joey Logano, who's just plus 6. Brad Keselowski just plus 4. You know, you got 2 former champions that are on the cusp right now. And then you have William Byron at minus 4. Kevin Harvick at minus 7. Alex Bowman at minus 13. And Christopher Bell, who did not have a good race at Vegas, is at minus 25. So Christopher Bell and Alex Bowman, they're going to really need to make some moves. Harvick and Byron, all it takes is 1 to 2 good runs to get themselves in position. I mean, Byron, compared to the deficit he was facing at Bristol, I mean, minus 4 is really nothing for him. But again, Talladega is next week, so that's, like I said, that's going to induce some nervous times. That's for damn sure. But as for my final rating for the South Point 400, it was a pretty forgettable race. It wasn't completely terrible, but that third stage was god-awful. There's nothing really to say about this race, so the best I can give it, I'm going to go on my Bret Hart shit and give it a 4 on the fuel gauge. So, below average, kind of mediocre. Wasn't the worst thing in the world. It had its moments, but yeah, that third stage can eat a dick. It was god-awful. Stages 1 and 2 were alright, but it wasn't enough to save this race. Pretty forgettable race. Probably not going to remember right after I'm done with this review, but like I said, not necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, you're going to have boring races every now and then. I mean, that's just the way it is. Not every race is going to be, you know, like we saw at Bristol or the Indianapolis 500 or, you know, stuff like that. You know, not every race is going to be 10 out of 10. You know, occasionally you're going to have some turds, and you know, that's just the way it is, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. As long as, you know, I mean, this race had very few cautions, went by fairly quickly, and there wasn't really any officiating bullshit, you know, for me to tear apart. You know, it was just an uneventful race. I mean, that's really all there is to it. And that's okay. You know, you'll have those every now and then. That's just a part of the business. You know, as long as there wasn't any, like, dumb shit, you know, officiating or anything of that nature, or something that really pisses me off, like what happened at Talladega last year, which it's going to be the 1 year anniversary of that one coming up. Hopefully this time around it won't be the same shit. But, yeah, it's just a forgettable race, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because not every race is going to be a sparkling, you know, super duper race. But next week is Talladega. What's going to happen this time in the playoff version of this race? Hopefully not the same shits that we saw last year. I don't want to have that kind of fucking rage once again this year. I just want to, you know, see a damn good race and come on here and be positive Pete. You know what I mean? And give my, you know, glowing praises to the race. You know, I don't want to be what it was last year when I just wanted to, you know, tear someone a new asshole, which I kind of did. I tore NASCAR a new asshole because of how that was handled. So, hopefully this year will be extremely different in terms of how it turns out. But anywho, that is going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. Just 6 races remaining in the Cup Series season before we crown a new champion. Who that will be, I have no idea, but we'll find out soon. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!